masters of disguise. Armed with your net, or perhaps your camera, you set out on your undersea search, looking for something new, something different. For you know that the waters are loaded with countless species of marine life, and they should be easy enough to spot. Yet as you tour the ocean's bottom, you're soon overcome by despair, because somehow all those unusual fish have managed to disappear. Had you never seen photographs of them, you would wonder if they ever existed at all. And if you knew something about these fish's ability to camouflage themselves, you would never dream that you might be passing within inches of them, without realizing they were there. Many of us consider mankind to be the inventor of camouflage techniques. Few of us realize that compared to the lowly fish, we still have lots to learn about the art of deception and disguise. Indeed, many fish disguise themselves not only as a means of protection, but as a trick to trap unsuspecting prey. One incredible example is the frogfish. Unlike the sleek, scaly fish we're accustomed to seeing, this creature's body looks like a rag mop with two blue eyes. Its dangling rags are actually filaments of skin tissue, causing the frogfish to resemble algae-covered rocks that lie on the ocean floor. By hiding among these rocks, it escapes detection by its enemies. But in addition, a single solid lump of flesh protrudes from the forehead of the frogfish, dangling and shimmering in the undersea currents. It acts as bait for many curious fish, just like the bait at the end of a fisherman's line. The fish come closer and closer to investigate, hoping that this is a morsel of food. Then suddenly, they're swallowed up by the frogfish's mighty mouth. Victims of underwater camouflage and deception. Many and varied are the camouflage tricks of the undersea kingdom, but certainly the most novel one is the disguise of the butterfly fish, for in its tail rests a false eye, much larger than its true eyes up front. A hungry enemy attracted by this phony eye goes streaking towards it, only to close its jaws on empty water as the butterfly fish calmly swims out of its path. Then there's the yellowfin grouper, a true chameleon of the sea. Its natural color is almost solid black, but at the slightest scare it instantly changes its color to blend with the surrounding rocks or vegetation. In a similar vein is the sargassum fish, named after the sargassum weed, where it makes its home. Like that weed, the sargassum fish is covered with tassels and ribbons, resembling the weed's flotation bladders, which are filled with air. In addition, it takes on the same color as the weed, thus rendering itself impossible to detect. At the same time, the sargassum fish has an extra measure of protection within the weed itself, which traps food and allows its tiny tenant to eat that food so the fish doesn't have to stray too far in search of a meal. The trumpet fish is famous for the sheer simplicity of its camouflage technique. The moment this creature is under threat, it turns upside down and forms a false spire of sponge on its tail. This is enough to deceive most would-be enemies. On the other end of the scale is the deadly stingray. It too is colored to conform with its habitat, the ocean floor. Lying there half buried, the stingray waits patiently for friend or foe, virtually invisible to the naked eye of fish or man. Sooner or later, an unwary victim comes swimming or floating by, and instinctively, the stingray snaps out its tail, laden with poisonous barbs. The enemy is stunned before it even realizes that something was there. These are but a few of the ingenious camouflage techniques of undersea creatures. Of course, they didn't think them up themselves, fish camouflage being a natural adaptation. But man, without realizing it, has imitated fish disguises that were practiced long before the human species even made its appearance on Earth. Today, the lowly fish remains the master and teacher of the arts of disguise, deception, and camouflage. From Ogre with Hate, Chapter 3. Suffering sunfish, as Aqualad would say. Aquaman's tangled with Typhoon and won the decision. But now the golden-haired Sea King has met his match in the Supreme One, top dog of the international crime combo called Ogre. Or has he? That saucer is stalking into the surf with Aquaman. Must try to stop it with a hard-water fist. What? I'm still alive, and so is Typhoon. Aquaman must have saved us from the liquidation button. The saucer's gone, out of range of my power. By the time I could reach the lagoon, it might be anywhere. It's no use, honey. You can't beat Ogre. Maybe Aquaman saved us, but look what happened to him. Typhoon is getting his wind back. And soon, where the saucer moves swiftly along the island's foundation.
Aquaman, the primary effects of the gas have worn off. You can see and hear, though you cannot move. You'll be mute witness to my triumph. The Geiger counter is going wild. There's high radioactivity here. I'll turn on the digger.
Again, the incredibly powerful suction device is aimed at the undersea part of the island and...
Peering behind the coral facade. Autofac Alpha! I found it! Yes, Sea King, even you weren't aware of an American automated atomic rocket factory in your own domain. It was built several years ago and camouflaged with its own complete island of coral and sand. The only scientists and officials who knew of the top secret project all died in a plane crash. However, my intelligence system had already gotten wind of it. The biggest job was finding which island out of the hundreds in this area held Artifact Alpha in its out. Now, for an enormous price, I'll sell it to a certain foreign power, which will blackmail America, the world, with its huge supply of atomic rockets.
Whew! Uncle Sam sure was right in suspecting there was trouble brewing here, but I goofed the mission. I failed. Can't move an eyelash. Now, as the saucer begins to remove the automated factory's secret contents...
Time to radio my greedy customer. Ogre the Sea Lion, the goods you ordered are here at...
Not many miles away, where an innocent-looking trawler drags a net across the sea bottom. Excellent. We begin Operation Roman Candle at once. Soon.
Here comes my customers. Now to collect my reward for this pile of hardware.
But suddenly, from the trawler's underwater section...
What? Torpedoes? No! It can't be!
But it is, old friend. The old double-cross. Frantically, the man from Ogre maneuvers the ungainly saucer, but... Ring! The explosion jolted me clear of the gas effects. Must let the Supreme One tackle these jokers before they net Uncle Sam's TNT bonbons. Gotta hit 'em hard and fast. Wish I had a little help, though. Help, Aquaman? It's closer than you think. Mira, Huntress, Typhoon! Hold on, darling. We're all one team now. And now the quiet lagoon whirls with deadly combat. Suddenly, U.S. Navy frogmen, how'd they get here? I called them, Aquaman. Remember, those were our orders, in case we had our hands full. As the tough, seasoned Navy frogs clobber the foreign scuba thugs. We're not needed here now. Follow me. The Supreme One is still loose. But as Aquaman, Mera, and their newfound allies splash onto the beach, great thundering waves!
Aquaman, this is the Supreme One speaking. Halt where you are, or I'll blow the hotel sky high. It's booby-trapped.
He could be anywhere in the hotel. Anywhere. Huntress, this is no time for a swim. I think I know just where he is, Aquaman. Follow me. But as Aquaman and the others leap into the innocent-looking pool waters, she's opening a secret door. I get it. This is part of Ogre's setup, right here in the hotel. Sure enough, as they follow the Huntress into an underground chamber...
Aquaman, I'll fix you. All of you.
Flatten, everyone! As the hooded desperado blazes away with the submachine gun.
Ogre forever! Ogre forever!
Those jets of water from the pool. As the water gushes in, Mera gestures to create hard water letters. But in this case, OGRE spells defeat. Beautiful, Mera, beautiful. Now as the beaten mystery foe slumps down, leaping mantas, it's the hotel manager. No wonder he guessed our every move. We never saw his face. Typhoon and I were shanghaied by the other agents. The booby traps were implanted in us, and after that, we had to follow orders or else. The law will take that into account when you both face justice, Huntress. Well, it looks like the Navy has corralled all the foreign scuba thugs, and the rockets are safely back in the right hands. Later.
Oh, George, to think it was Aquaman and Mera all this time. How thrilling! How exciting!
I thought it might alarm you, dear, but I knew it was them all along, on a top-secret case. Mr. and Mrs. Waterman. Humph, never fooled me.
Which only proves don't fool around with Sea Kings, on vacation or not. If you think this story was a smasheroo, the next Aquaman issue is even greater. No fooling. The end. They're real, live fish. The total population of sea creatures, as everyone knows, consists of innumerable shapes and forms, some gigantic, others minute, some fearsome, others harmless. No one is surprised when he comes upon some glamorous species swimming about, no matter how oddly it's constructed. The octopus with its tentacles, the lobster with its claws, the hammerhead shark with the eyes at the edges of its frightening head lobes. All these are forms we take for granted, strange as they may seem. What many people are not familiar with, however, are the thousands upon thousands of fish that resemble anything but a fish. In fact, to the naked eye, they don't seem like any living creature. Most typical of this misconception is the sponge. Until about 100 years ago, even marine scientists considered the sponge a plant, not an animal, because it sits quietly, doesn't respond to anything touching it, and has no extensions for catching or trapping food. But, studied in a laboratory, the sponge is easily seen to have a body perforated with tiny holes that are joined by interior canals to larger holes. Within these canals are little appendages that continually flail like whips, pumping water in through the small holes and out through the large ones. In that way, the sponge filters its food from the water. The sponge you see your mother using to wash dishes, or your father using to wash cars, is actually the dried and treated skeleton of a once-living sea being. The ocean floors are strewn with a class of creatures known as anemones. To the uninitiated eye, anemone appears to be exotic-looking plants. Indeed, many an observer has been struck by the beauty of anemone gardens beneath the sea, their slender leaves flapping gracefully. In reality, those leaves are the tentacles of another living sea creature. After snaring food, the tentacles pass it down to the anemone's mouth, which in turn passes the food down through the central cavity, where digestion takes place. The anemone survives on plant life as well as on certain small fish, who, like humans, mistake it for a plant. The anemone, by the way, is a relative of the coral, which is similarly constructed of tentacles extending from the mouth. Many of you have stood on coral reefs, limestone structures that jut from the sea. Are you aware that these reefs were formed by millions, perhaps billions, of coral animals, now dried into rock-like skeletons? Also in the same family are those drifting, slimy blobs known as jellyfish. Outwardly, this sea animal looks like an ordinary piece of flotsam or jetsam, but closer inspection reveals the jellyfish's tentacles, its hidden mouth, and even primitive eyes around the mouth. Any food lover will tell you what delicious eating shrimps make, but more than a few shrimp eaters are shocked to learn that these too are members of the animal kingdom. Shrimps belong to a family of shellfish who shed their shells as they grow, and whenever you see a ship with barnacles clinging to its hull, you're looking at living creatures that come from the same species as shrimps. In their infant stage, barnacles are free swimming, but when fully grown, they cling to plants or rocks, or boats, kicking food into their mouth with minute feet. More frequently encountered are clams and oysters, whose thick shells are actually protective covering of another live creature. Indeed, you examine these animals closely, you'll notice that they even have a tiny muscular foot, which enables them to move about. There are countless more fish that don't look like fish, so the next time you're out to sea and you pause to admire a glittering stone or an exotic plant, if your eye is caught by an oddly shaped object floating by, don't jump to conclusions. You may be observing another species of the undersea animal kingdom.